Hey guys, welcome to, I guess, the real first episode of From the Pastor's Couch. As promised, we're going to do several of these vlog series to talk through just some topics that we're not able to discuss at a platform type service like preaching and that kind of deal, because we really reserve that for a really specific purpose, and that is the proclamation of God's Word and the preaching of the gospel. And so excited today. Today is a topic that is wildly discussed. A lot of theories about church and how that relates to a child's life and how parents' roles kind of mesh into that. So got our family pastor, Pastor Matthew, with us today. He's bringing in about 13 years of family ministry experience. Some of you know, most of you do. I was student pastor for 10 years before transitioning into senior pastor role. So sitting on this couch is about 24 years of dealing with this very thing. And so our goal this morning is to just kind of help us unpack why it is important to have your children in church and just kind of dealing with that. So Matthew, I know you've got a lot of experience here. So help us begin to wrap our minds around the issues regarding kids in church and why we bring our kids to church and all that you've seen and had to experience there.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, first off, I am honored to be your first guest on the couch. Very excited about this opportunity. But yeah, let's just dive right in. With family ministry and with children, common question that we see with parents is, hey, really missed you this Sunday. Where were you at? And it was, we were just sleepy, or we had a rough night, or we did this, and which I completely understand. But then we dive really deeper into, hey, it's important for your kids to be at church. And sometimes parents get it, sometimes they don't. And so we began to unpack with them why it's important. And I kind of use an elementary analogy with them of, you send your kids off to school, or if you homeschool, you open up your books at your house and you begin to look at the fundamentals of mathematics and social studies and history, science, all this other stuff, with hopes that one day they'll be smart and they'll be able to carry on a conversation and go on to college and become a productive member of society. And my question to them is, why wouldn't you want the same thing with church? Why wouldn't you want to put that emphasis on church, that at some point in their life they're going to hit resistance, they're going to hit a problem, that they're going to want that foundation, and hey, we were sick, or we had a late night, or we were here or there, it's not going to cut it. So that's the conversation that we have with the parents begins to develop, and after that, most of the time they kind of understand the importance of building that firm foundation. And then a second kind of problem or things that we've seen in this area is the extracurricular stuff, whether it's high schools or middle schools or whatever the case may be. Scheduling games, scheduling activities on Wednesday nights, or even workouts early Sunday morning. You want to look at coaches and say, what are you thinking? You're encroaching on church time. You're not given an opportunity for kids that want that chance to go to church. You're not even giving that opportunity to them. And when they get into high school and middle school, they're kind of handicapped, because if they want to be on that team, they have to abide by that rules. But we go back a little bit where it's extracurricular things that are not out of their control, like the travel ball games, the trips to the lake, and other things that take them away. Oh, well, they spent the night at so-and-so's house and, they don't go to church. Well, get your kids back, or invite them to come Sunday night so that you can take friends to church with you. So I want to look at parents and tell you the emphasis on travel ball is great. There's travel ball, baseball, softball teams that only play on Saturday. Look for one of those. going to the lake is great. I love fishing. I love hanging out at the lake. But Saturday night, show your kids, hey, there's an importance of getting up and going to church. We got to go back early. Well, why, Mom and Dad? Because God is important. Church is important. You know, it's an emphasis. It's showing your child that, yeah, we can have fun, but we make the big thing the big thing. We make God important. We make church important. And so I would say through building foundations and looking at extracurricular things, some of them are out of control. Some things can't be helped. But building that foundation, showing your kids that we come to church to worship together as a body of believers. The church is the people, and the church building is just a building. But when you make an effort to come together as the body of believers, and you make an effort to come together as one and worship, it becomes a special thing. And the overarching thing, I've sat and counseled with parents that their daughter's pregnant, or their child, their son was involved in whatever drugs or whatever it may be, and I can almost tell you 99% of the time the conversation had with the parents is this: I don't know where I went wrong. I wish I would have spent more time in church. And it's not ever been, man, I wish I would have spent more time at the lake, or I wish we'd have spent more time at the ballpark. The encouragement that I have to parents and families is this: build that foundation, make the big thing important, make God important, and have the conversations with your children now about why it's important to attend church, be around a body of believers, so that later on in their life you can answer that question, or you're confident. Because we all know that just because a kid grows up in church, that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to be saints or angels their entire life, but you give them a fighting chance.
Yeah. So how do you help a parent? Because this is where you're at in your life right now. You've got a son, loves to play baseball. He gets pressure on him, and you guys as parents get pressure from other parents. Hey, join this travel ball, or do this all-star thing that's going to pull you out. And there's been times where Will hasn't been able to do some stuff with his team because church is a priority for you guys. So how do you handle that, being able to speak life into your children? But also, how do you use that as an opportunity to even tell the parents that you're on the team with, hey, we're not doing this because of church? How do you leverage those two?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's last year we seen that with one of our all-star teams or whatever, and they had a non-mandatory practice on Sunday, and it was in between church services. So we were able to go, and even the conversation that Will had was, hey, Daddy, we don't normally practice or do anything on Sunday. And I got to explain to him, but it's in between church services, but I was proud that at that moment he recognized we don't do this on Sunday. And so I think early conversations with kids of this is what we do on Sunday mornings, this is who we are, and this is why we do it. And plus, like you said, you have conversations with parents or other people on the team and kids of, well, if we have a Sunday game, that rules out Matt as a coach, that rules out Will as a player, because they have church. And then, conversations are had then, well, is church really that important to miss baseball? Absolutely. If I knew that the only games would take place on Sunday, Will wouldn't play baseball anymore for this team or this league, because it's that important. So, I mean, I think that it opens up the door. It absolutely opens up the door. Baseball is great. Football is great. All sporting events are an avenue to share Jesus, and I think that's a that's a good opportunity is to share the reason why we don't attend on Sundays.
So for just 30 seconds, talk to the parent right now who they've got caught up in the shifting sands of trying to be everything and be everywhere, and they've got a child in dance, they've got a child on a team or on a piano recital or all of these things that has taken them away from church, and they looked at the calendar and they went, man, we haven't been to church but twice this year.
Yeah.
What are the steps that today they're hearing this vlog and they go, he's talking straight to me, he's talking straight into my family. What are the steps that they take to say we're gonna begin to turn this ship and make church a priority?
Slow down. Life happens way too fast. We get caught up and we get our calendar just all jumbled up. But I would say get invested in a small group, get invested in a church that can love on your kids. I would say that time spent with them in worship, time spent with them here is going to be lasting. Piano lessons, dance recitals, baseball, hitting practice, throwing practice, whatever that case may be, is great. Schedule it outside the time of worship. And I would even say this, when you make God a priority, you're going to have time. You're going to have opportunities for your kids to enjoy the things that they want to enjoy, and you're going to have time to enjoy that with them. I firmly believe that God sees the desires of our heart, and He honors that. But we have to be willing to seek Him first, and then when that happens, I really believe that He opens up time that even we don't think that we have.
Yeah. All right, I got one last question, and this is going to be a doozy. All right, so you've dealt with this, I've dealt with this, and I've got a heartbreaking story concerning this, and we don't have time to really walk in that. But to the parent who says, my teenager's at home today because they didn't want to come to church, and I didn't want to force church on them. As a family pastor, I mean, we hear that and we go, what? You don't give them that option Monday morning when the alarm clock goes off for school. So talk us through that. How does a parent look at their teenage son, look at their teenage daughter, and say, you're going to church with me today, and begin to develop that foundation? Because at that point, if you've waited to the point your child's a teenager, you're already behind the 8 ball.
Yep.
You're already uphill fight because you have developed a discipline that church really isn't that important. Because every time we pass church off to go to that lake weekend, and we don't bash vacations. Pastor Matt takes vacations, I take vacations, but what we do is when we're at a place as a family on vacation, church, we still go to church. We're that weird visiting family at the beach going to church, and I actually enjoy it because it helps me see what other churches are doing, but it also, I get preached at as opposed to preaching, so it's a cool thing. So how do you help parents say, you're going to church, we're going to do this as a family, and how do you just encourage that?
Yeah. You do it. You absolutely, you establish you're coming to church. There's no question behind it. We're loading up the car, you're coming. I think that parents kind of, when teenage times hit, some of them try to tighten down a little bit, some of them try to be the cool parent, and it may be, well, you know what, we live in a world now where you don't want to worry about indoctrinating people. You don't want to worry about hurting their feelings, and you don't want to be that family, the so-called weird family that every time the doors are open, they're there, and But I think that that's what sets you apart. You set that standard that you're waking up. I'm going to make sure that you're here. Holler upstairs, holler downstairs. The car's leaving in 15 minutes. And I'd encourage this, and because we experienced this in our life with some of the older kids that we raised with my niece and nephew. It's okay to be late. It's okay. I mean, hey, some parents give up at that point of, I've screamed at you so long and I'm told you, encourage you, come on, let's go, that I'm worried about being 5 minutes late to my class. So just forget it, stay here. Kids know that. Kids understand that. So be a couple minutes late. When you walk into church, if you tell somebody, hey, we're a couple minutes late because I was making sure my child came here, if someone has something bad to say or something negative to say, just brush it off, because you made a point to say, it's worth the fight.
Yeah.
You made a reference a couple weeks ago or last week of how much do you have to hate somebody not to share the gospel with them. You got to love your kids enough to drag them to church.
Yeah.
So don't worry about being late. Don't worry about what, make sure they got clothes on, make sure they're wearing something, but don't necessarily, if they're mixed-match socks, who cares? Get them here. Because if somebody's more concerned about their socks than their soul, there's a problem.
Yeah.
So don't worry about the fight, worry about their soul. Worry about getting them here to church. So make an emphasis, build that foundation, and love your kids through it.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. Hey, if you're still with us, thank you for hanging out through kind of our first episode of From the Pastor's Couch. Why do we bring our kids to church? This is an issue, epidemic. More Gen Xers are walking away from the church than ever before. And so to the grandparents who you're bringing your grandkids to church, I applaud you.
Yep.
For the parents who are watching this going, maybe we need to be more proactive. I can tell you as a parent, do it. Start them young so that you're not fighting against teenagers. Start them young, having a discipline for church. But parents, that also means you've got to be disciplined. That when the alarm clock goes off, you get up. And we set aside, my family, we understand Saturday night as we're going to bed, church is tomorrow.
Yeah.
And so we don't stay up and watch the late football games. We don't stay up and watch the late movie. We don't binge another series of something on Netflix. We go to bed because there's nothing more important than our family worship that's going to happen on Sunday morning. Thank you guys for tuning in. We will catch you next time as we just continue to unpack this concept of why is church important and why do we need to be there. As always, I love you. God loves you. Go and sin no more.